Welcome everybody, my name's Scott. I'm joined today again by Stephen, and we're looking at information modeling. And today I understand that we're going to be looking at the last step. So we've had a look at some conceptual modeling, we've had a look at some logical modeling, and now we're going to look at the final step, which is the physical model, and see how that looks. So welcome, Stephen. Perhaps you can tell us a little bit about this last logical to physical model transformation, and how Enterprise Architect can help us.
Great, thanks for the introduction, Scott, and always a pleasure to be here. Yes, we are going to be looking at the physical data model. So we have had a look at the conceptual data model, the logical data model, and this is part of the evolution of information from the business world, the glossary, and perhaps the business term model, through the conceptual model, the logical model, and down into the physical model. Now, the other two models that we had were platform independent. So let's just do a very quick little recap on that. But before we do, let's change our perspective, which we always do. I've been doing some work with simulations in a systems engineering model, and now we're going to be looking at, we'll look at UML modeling again. We'll change that perspective, and you see the tool changes our focus again. We're going to do things from first principles, so let's close the builder page and let's now look at our structural models. We had from previous videos the structural model node here set up in the tool, and we had not the structural node, sorry, my mistake. Information models we had set up, the conceptual data model and the logical data model are there, and we'll have a very quick look at those diagrams. So that's the conceptual model, just the entities. They've all got notes on them here, you can see in the notes window. And the logical data model is more evolved, and it's got attributes in it as well. We've used colors to indicate some of the different parts of the model. That's always a good technique. It allows people to sort of see very quickly visually. Now, the important thing to understand is this is an evolution. We've gone from the business people describing the information. They may have done that in a glossary first, but we've got our conceptual model where we've been talking to them about the relationship between these things. Both the conceptual model and the logical model are platform independent. We haven't talked about anything to do with the type of platform, the type of database, the type of warehouse that we're using.
And as I understand it, Enterprise Architect supports a lot of different databases and technologies. Is that correct?
Yeah, absolutely, Scott. It's got an incredible breadth of support for different databases, also into the into the world of warehouse architecture and all of those kind of cloud platforms as well. So what we want to do now is we could go and create the physical data model by hand, creating elements from the toolbox. But what we're going to do is use, again, a transformation, which is an incredibly useful productivity tool to transform our logical model into our conceptual model. So just before we do that, let's have a quick look at what we might do if we were going to do this from scratch. So we've got our conceptual model, got our logical model. We'd create a package called physical data model, and we would put that in there, and let's add a diagram there and say, first we'll just move that physical data model using the little arrow icon on the browser toolbar. It's down there. Let's create a diagram now, and let's make this into a database engineering diagram. So we'll choose that one there, and we'll say, database engineering, and we can create a physical data model. And notice that the toolbox has changed, and we can drop a table onto the element, onto the diagram canvas, and we can give that a name and start modeling. So you can see there that there are a whole lot of things related to data modeling: tables, views, procedures, sequences, functions, database connection, SQL query. And we could give this a name, and we could say, look, we want to use uppercase, for example, and we could call this parking meter. And so we could add columns to this by going to our start ribbon and our properties panel, and features window now. And notice now that these are not attributes, but columns. So I could put in, you know, the type here, for example, and I could choose type. We're not going to do that today, Scott. I've just showed you how easy it is for someone to do one of these things from scratch. Anyone that's listening can do this from first principles. But the power of the tool, the productivity to be able to convert the logical model and continue the evolution, continue the sort of the mechanized evolution using the transformations. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to delete this now. So this was just an example to show you how you could do this using the toolbox to drag and drop elements on there. So let's remove this. And I can do that by simply right mouse clicking and from the context menu choosing delete physical data model. Now Enterprise Architect warns you that this is an irreversible step, but we're clear that we don't want this one in here, and it was just a demonstration. So I'll delete that, and the physical data model's gone. So now what I'm going to do is I'll close these ones for a minute, close the builder page. I'm going to go into my information models package and look in there, the conceptual data model, the logical data model. So it's the logical data model, that's the next part of the evolution that I want to make a transformation of. So with that package selected, I'm going to go to the ribbons, and it's the design ribbon, the package panel, and the transform item here. And I'm going to choose a transformation. I'm going to apply the transformation, and we'll look at that, and you can see that the classes or the logical entities have all been selected. Now I've got the option in this window to do a number of things. I can say, look, I want to hand pick, cherry pick which things I want generated. I don't want them all generated for some reason. In this case, we're going to select all. And so we're going to
theoretically, you could exclude certain elements from the physical model if you so desired.
Exactly. And you might have a large data model. There may only be a particular section of it, like with our colors that we, just had the section to do with payments and transactions and things. So now we're going to go generate, and we're going to choose tables as the transformation type. So we'll select that, and Enterprise Architect pops up a window and allows us to select the package that we want to put this transform model into. So we've got information models, and so we'll select that one. We'll say that we want it to go into the information models, and it will become the physical data model. So we'll select that package, and we'll do the transformation. So everything's fine. We've got all those selected. We've got the transformation chosen, and now we'll do the transformation. Enterprise Architect does some work for us, and now you can see that what it's done is it's put a package into the project browser, and now you can see that has elements in it which are not stereotyped as logical entities anymore. They're stereotyped as tables. And you can see here under them, we've got not attributes as we had in our logical model, but we've got columns. And you can see from that, we've also got a number of other things in here representing primary key and foreign keys, the indexes there. So let's have a quick look at one of these items. So let's look at this tables one, for example. We won't look at the diagram yet. I'm going to rename this package here, which I can quite easily do, into the physical data model. I can easily change that in the transformation to directly write in physical data model rather than tables if I wanted to. Let's move that package down using the toolbar again, and we'll change it to physical data model. So let's look at our table location here. Actually, what's a better one to look at might be the parking zone. Yeah, let's look at this one. So with the parking zone selected, you can see now that we've got these column names, code, description, and street address. The other thing that you might look at is we had spaces, which I mentioned in previous videos, being an important way to name things so that they're in kind of what I call business speak. The business don't like, removing spaces out of names. It's much more sensible to write them in natural English. But now the transformations occurred, we've removed those. And we can do all sorts of things in the transformation about the namings, put them into camel case and uppercase, all sorts of things, put in underscores if we wanted to between parts of the name. But if you look into now the features window, and we're looking at these attributes here, you can see for the parking zone, you can see now that the types have also changed.
Yep.
The column names again they've suppressed the spaces between that. If we looked into our logical model and we looked at parking zone, you'll see that we had start space enforcement space time. Now
Yep.
we've got start enforcement time as a single string.
And
Notice
this is
also,
obviously because within a database, capitalization and spaces all can stop the code from working essentially. So it's been automatically renamed by the looks of it to take care of all of those issues.
Yeah, that's right, Scott. And we're going to talk about something which is, the elephant in the room, if you like, because we haven't talked about the physical platform that we're going to. We talked about the conceptual model being platform independent. We talked about the logical model being platform independent. And now we're looking at this thing, and suddenly we're in a world where actually the start enforcement time, if we look at the data types, we've got a very long list of data types. Now, these data types belong to a particular database, and I've deliberately left that step out to talk to you and generated that first. We're going to go back now and look at exactly what's gone on here. The database that we've got is actually a MySQL database, and I can tell that if I go to a table and I look at the properties. So we're deliberately ignoring the diagram for a moment, and you can see here, as you pointed out a bit earlier, Enterprise Architect can target a whole lot of different platforms, cloud platforms and relational database platforms. And the list is here. And so I'm looking at this table, and we've got Firebird and Infomix and SQL Server and all sorts of other databases. But this one is MySQL. Now, how did that happen? The reason why it happened is because I told Enterprise Architect in my preferences that my default database was going to be MySQL. It could have been anything. So let's go to the Start ribbon, to the Appearance panel, to the Preferences item, and open up the Preferences window. Now, we have a bunch of preferences here that we've looked at in previous videos, but one of the important ones here is this source code engineering, which includes database engineering. Let's have a look at these code editors item in the tree, and you can see that my default database has been set to MySQL. Yeah, and the MySQL storage engine has been set to this type. I could have set it to a number of other ones, but it's been set to that. This has told Enterprise Architect that when you're generating out the database, let's target a MySQL database. I could have changed that to, for example, a SQL Server one, or to Postgres,
Oracle,
anything else that I wanted to. And there is the facility within the tool, which is another topic of generating to cloud database infrastructures. Yeah, so incredibly powerful there. So that's where that's been set. The other thing is that there are all sorts of other naming that goes on when we create foreign and primary keys and things. Let's have a look at where that is set. And in the settings ribbon, underneath the model panel in our options, we can look at this, and we can look at the particular items that are going to help us understand how to do this thing. So if we look at this here, the source code engineering item, you can see the DDL name templates. So if I select that, pops up another window and says, when Enterprise Architect is generating a primary key or a unique key constraint, foreign key or foreign key index, this is the naming conventions. So the foreign key has got F key as a string underscore, and this placeholder here is the foreign key table name underscore the primary key table name. So we'll look at that in a diagram in a minute. So what I'm going to do, Scott, is I'm going to get you to perform some of your magic, and I'm going to, the diagram has already been created, but we're just going to tidy things up a little bit on the diagram and make it just a little bit easier for people to read. Enterprise Architect automatically generates that diagram, but we'll create a diagram that suits our audience today. So I'll get you to perform some magic, and we'll get that done.
Sounds great. Thanks, Stephen. It's great to see that our physical model has all the tables set up. We can see primary keys and foreign keys. We can see the relationships between the various tables. And once again, we've used colors to separate out the vehicle, the parking, and the payment details. So yeah, it looks great. Perhaps you could tell us a little bit about what we've got from our physical model and how we can use this, particularly with a MySQL or MySQL database that we've targeted in this particular instance.
Thanks, Scott. Yeah, the tool has done the work for us. Enterprise Architect has done a transformation from the logical model into the physical model. We really had to do precious little work at all. I just wanted to add the color, which the tool doesn't do, and just make a couple of alignment adjustments. Other than that, the tool has done that work for us. Let's have a little bit of a look through the model. I'm going to use the pan and zoom window here to zoom in a little bit on the model so I can read it, and then I can use the pan and zoom focus window to move around the diagram. So that makes it very easy to look at the diagram either for yourself or when you're presenting it to an audience. Now, remember I talked about the name templates and the fact that we could decide how we name things. And you can see here that the foreign keys have been marked as FK _ parking meter _ parking zone. So the foreign key table and then the primary key table there. The other thing is that you may not have noticed, but we've had some attributes that have been added automatically. So we didn't define a parking zone ID, but the tool transformation has automatically put that in there. And we can see here the vehicle, the same with the vehicle ID. So that's part of the transformation. It's a piece of machinery that does, a lot of work for you. If you didn't want it to be called vehicle ID, for example, and wanted it to just be called ID, you could go and change the transformation template and adjust that to do whatever it is that you wanted to do. And remember, this is one target. So we have the target of MySQL. I could run the transformation again after changing my preferences to another database or changing the tables themselves into another database target, and that would generate the physical model.
So you could have 5 or 6 different physical models sitting side by side for the different target databases.
Yeah, which is common for some organizations. So it's a very useful thing. Once again, Scott, with the tool, the product team have listened very carefully to the customers and the things that they want to do and made those facilities available in the tool. Now, there is another step which we're not going to perform in this particular video because it will be in a subsequent video on generating out the actual database definition language or targeting a live database. So we'll look at that in the future, but there is a tool called the Database Builder and a number of options here under the data modeling panel of the development ribbon, and we can say we can import a database, we can import DDL, we can generate out DDL, we've got templates, we've got data types, we've got all sorts of different things that we can define there, and we've got our tool, the Database Builder as well. So if we had a look in here, I've just checked the database one, and you can see here that the database types, the attribute types or the column types have all been included into the tool. There's the time one that we looked at.
Yep.
You can go and change these types yourself if you have some particular things that you're wanting to do. You may have some user-defined data types, for example, and you can define these in here and define the types against the particular column. So infinite flexibility there with the product, and all of that work has been done for you. So a very quick look at the database builder. We're just going to bring that up. And I can click here for a new database, and I could say that I wanted a different type of database. Let's just say we wanted a Postgres XML, Postgres SQL one, and we could generate that out. So that's what we would do. We've got one for MySQL there, and we've got all sorts of other database objects like functions, procedures, queries, tables, views, connections, all sorts of different things. So that's the Destiny. I'm mentioning it now just because this is that will be the continuation of the evolution of this model, which remember started, in the glossary, the idea that the business defined terms. We went through our conceptual model. We went through a logical model into our physical model, all preparing for Enterprise Architect doing the work of generating and synchronizing with a live database, whether that's a test one, a pre-production, dev, or production database. So that's it for this topic, but you can see the amazing, productivity that the tool has and the amazing flexibility, being able to define your own templates for the generation. So that's physical data modeling, Scott.
Thanks, Stephen. It's fantastic to see how much power Enterprise Architect has to create the transformations, to generate and do all the hard work for us. I'd like to remind our audience that if you like this video, to like, comment, and subscribe to Sparx Systems YouTube channel. We always appreciate your feedback. If you have any questions about conceptual, logical, or physical data models, please feel free to reach out to Stephen via LinkedIn or the website details listed below. Thank you, Stephen, once again for showing us how easy it is to model and build a database within Enterprise Architect. Appreciate your time and love the expertise and how simple it looks building databases in Enterprise Architect.
Always a pleasure, Scott. Thanks for your time.
Thank you.